Story 1. Ink cartridges. Printer companies make barely any profit on actual printers. They are just vessels to make you buy unreasonably priced cartridges. Hey, please print this document in black and white. Fuck you, give magenta. Story 2. Most of what the average person believes about diamonds comes from propaganda and advertising created by De Beers. Diamonds are not rare, they are not worth what consumers pay for them, they do not appreciate in value, and they are a poor investment. They are not special. Story 3. Those Keymaster games usually have prizes such as a Nintendo Switch and a pair of Beats headphones. I work part-time at an arcade, and you cannot win a prize until the machine has taken its retail equivalent in cash. Story 4. I pay $9.99 for 51 ounces of Folgers ground coffee, roughly 380 cups of 8 ounces each. That comes out to about 2 cents per cup. At Starbucks, a tall dark roast costs $1.85. I could have 92.5 cups of Folgers at home before I would pay for one Starbucks drink. My tub of Folgers would be worth $703 if sold at the same per cup price as Starbucks. I use reusable cups every day. Story 5. The school picture industry. $80 for an awkward picture of my baby? No thanks. Story 6. Every person on the internet who sells so-called millionaire education is dishonest. Most are not even wealthy. They fake it so some people will buy. You are their customers and nothing more. Story 7. I do not know if it is normalized, but McAfee Security Service. In my experience, it has done nothing for me except pop up every time I start my computer or about every 4 hours. I remember my ex-girlfriend's grandmother who fell victim to the service. I tried to persuade them not to pay, but I was too late. I learned that every computer comes with security software and that third-party security programs, if not installed or configured properly, can cause problems. I am convinced McAfee behaves like malware that pressures you to pay, similar to ransomware that accesses your webcam, locks your computer, and displays a fabricated legal notice demanding payment. Although many people use McAfee as a firewall and security program, I believe it is likely a scam. Downvote me if you must, but convince me otherwise. Story 8. Often, the point is not that we fail to notice, but that we lack better alternatives. Story 9. Manufacturers refuse to provide documentation to independent repair businesses and require customers to have their products repaired by dealers. This is the reason for the right to repair movement. Story 10. Homeowners insurance. 1. We are not selling new policies in your area right now because a recent earthquake, wildfire, flood, or similar event occurred. 2. We do not cover that type of damage. Policies often include vague exclusions and loopholes. 3. If you submit a claim, your rates may be tripled indefinitely. Story 11. I don't know if anyone remembers power balance bracelets from the early 2000s. Many celebrities and athletes promoted them and they claimed to improve balance and overall health. Since they were simple rubber bracelets produced in factories, the claims were nonsense, but they still sold millions of units before the company shut down. A new company owns the brand now, and you can still buy them. Edit. I heard about this from a Danny Gonzalez video. Story 12. Paying for cable television. The whole idea of paying was to create a revenue stream separate from advertising. There are a few exceptions, such as home box office, but generally we pay to access the content and still spend 20% of the time sitting through commercials. Then streaming arrived and we were free of advertisements again for a while. Now YouTube has many advertisements, and other streaming services are discussing adding advertisements as well. Story 13. Reducing the price by 1 cent tricks the brain into thinking a product costs less than it actually does. Story 14. Social media started happily, but now they are mostly a funnel used to push as many advertisements into your mind as possible. Sponsored posts appear every third or fourth item. I see you, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and others. That is not even mentioning the extensive filtering networks that curate the information you see when searching. Curated information is a polite expression for conditioning you to form certain opinions and buy more stuff. Social media groom minds. Edit. Wow. Over 11,000 upvotes. If we assume that 1 in 10 people bother to vote at all, this means my post has been seen by over 100,000 people. This illustrates the power of the internet. The irony is not lost on me that my most popular post ever should be about how social media have become overly commercialized to the point of being a scam. Things I learned from the comments and some light research. Many of you quoted the old saying, "When the product is free, you are the product." The earliest attribution I could find was to an artist named Richard Serra in 1973. To this I could add, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Building and running the internet is not free. Several sources state that the internet consumes over 10% of the global electricity supply. Using 10% of the global electricity supply is equivalent to powering about half of the United States of America, or roughly the combined consumption of Germany, Canada, South Korea, France, the United Kingdom, and Italy. Put another way, 10% of global carbon dioxide emissions from electricity generation are due to running the internet. If we estimate that 50% of internet activity consists of sending advertising and spam, we have to ask, is that really worth spending 5% of the world's entire electricity supply on? Or would it be better to reduce that fluff and start charging users a fair fee? Speaking for myself, I believe the internet is an invaluable addition to our lives, and I would be willing to pay a fair and transparent fee for an ad-free, tracker-free, spam-free, bot-free internet experience, especially if that would save 5% of global electricity. I am not saying the internet should be censored. Designing and implementing something like that will be difficult. We will likely need to look to the European Union for innovations in this space. I also learned that my ad blocking settings were overdue for a refresh. I found that on my iPhone and iPad in particular, it is hard to find effective ad blockers. Apple does not allow browsers other than Safari on those devices. Versions of Firefox and Chrome available, there are essentially Safari under a different interface, and Mozilla and Google likely pay Apple for that. This means that effective open-source ad blockers that work on desktop Firefox and Chrome do not work on iPhone and iPad. With some digging in the App Store, I found an option that seems to work, but I will not advertise it here. Suffice to say, it is useful to periodically update your ad blocking system, and free open-source blockers are among the best. Am I contradicting myself by saying that I am willing to pay a fair price for internet use while also installing ad blockers? Yes, a bit. I install ad blockers mainly out of concern for my privacy, which I believe is under heavy attack. I also believe internet media have crossed a line. I can tolerate some clearly identified advertising, but who would enjoy a newspaper if at least 25% of it were overt advertising and perhaps half of the remainder were cleverly disguised, highly personalized paid content? If I can automatically cut that out, I will. This edit started as a thank you to all who read my post and grew into a bit more. Perhaps I should start a discussion thread of my own, because the rampant commercialism on the internet annoys many of us. Story 15. Listen up. Everything is a scam. If you send me $19.99, I can show you how to turn the tables on the scammer and get his money. This is a limited time offer. Send payment now. Story 16. All multi-level marketing companies prey on insecure women, specifically military spouses, to get them to join. It is almost like a cult. They promise new friends, lots of free trips, and the chance to make $20,000 a month. They are not your friends. The trips are only free if you become a top earner, and the only realistic way to make $20,000 a month is to recruit at minimum 100 people on your team who work every single day. Most sales come from salespeople buying products to resell, and they tell you that you have to buy more to sell more. I have been researching multi-level marketing companies for years. By insecure, I mean sad, lonely, stressed, not financially stable, or in a military family that moves frequently. I have attended meetings and listened to calls about how to recruit more people. I do not mean that all insecure people join these companies. I myself am very insecure in many ways and have never joined a multi-level marketing company despite multiple offers. I hate that these companies are so predatory. I do not judge the women, men, and non-binary people who take these opportunities. When you do not know where your next paycheck is coming from and you have mouths to feed, the offer can be tempting. I would hope people choose another job, but it is especially tempting for stay-at-home parents. Direct your judgment toward these companies and the people higher up who make others feel like their lives are about to become so much better. Story 17. Look at the cat food in a typical store. Packaging often brags about healthy vegetables added to your obligate carnivore's diet. Check the ingredients and you will find corn, rice, and similar fillers listed first. Pet food is marketed to appeal to human sensibilities, not to provide the best diet for your cat. Story 18. People often say that once you finish high school, complete a degree, or get a job, it's all fun ahead. Some people even say that once you die, it's all fun ahead. Story 19. College tuition rises every year. Why are colleges not held to a competitive pricing model instead of forcing students to take out mortgages to pay for school? Everyone talks about the government paying for college, but there is little discussion about why higher education is so expensive. Some universities have endowments in the billions. The interest on those funds could cover tuition for every student who attends. Update. This went crazy. Thank you to everyone for keeping the discussion civil rather than turning to political rants. And thank you for the awards, kind strangers. Story 20. Funerals and everything to do with them. The funeral industry has excessive pricing. Some funeral homes and vendors are predatory, convincing grieving families to pay tens of thousands of dollars because that is what the deceased would have wanted. Story 21. College textbook prices are ridiculously expensive, placing an additional financial burden on students. Story 22. Mobile game ads that show gameplay of a Call of Duty or Skyrim-style game, but are actually a Candy Crush spin-off. Story 23. Ask for an itemized bill that lists everything provided and the cost of each item. Hospitals will often reduce the bill by about 50%. Story 24. It seems wrong to do your own taxes and pay to use privately owned software or a service when the government could do it for you, send you the details, and ask whether they are correct. I am in Canada, which is similar to the United States in this regard. I use the free version of TurboTax and file for no charge, but the free edition is intentionally incomplete, so I miss out on tax savings. Thanks for all the free tax software suggestions. Simple Tax and Studio Tax sound great. If I were in the United States, I would consult a site critical of TurboTax that includes a tax avoidance hall of fame. I have been procrastinating on my taxes and am filing late for the first time ever. Your suggestions saved me and made me feel anonymously internet famous with the upvotes and awards. Thank you. Story 25. Most megachurches. I remember an interview with Kenneth Copeland in which he said he needed a private jet to spread religion. Story 26. Planned obsolescence is when products are deliberately designed to develop defects or perform worse shortly after the warranty expires. Here are two examples of how companies can influence a product's lifespan. 1. Using inferior materials in critical components, such as soft metal screws or cheap plastics instead of metal in load-bearing parts. Companies often know the average lifespan of these components and can place them so they fail after the warranty period. 2. Designing products so components that often need replacement cannot be replaced by the user. For example, many devices now have non-removable batteries. Sometimes products are designed so independent repair shops cannot replace components easily. This affects not only phones but any electronic product. Story 27. Members of the U.S. Senate, members of the U.S. Congress, and presidential candidates collect money from corporations and major donors, hide it in campaign accounts, political action committees, and independent expenditure-only committees, and then dole it out as they like. They no longer act as a government of the people and for the people. Edit. Since people are reading and responding, I recommend you learn about Lawrence Lessig's reform approach. It is well thought out and gaining support. Story 28. Unpaid internships often exploit people and frequently offer little or no meaningful credit or recognition. It is frustrating when positions are advertised as unpaid but only provide a certificate. I am referring to unpaid internships that give nothing beyond a certificate. There are very few companies that offer unpaid internships that actually provide real value. I am not criticizing paid internships. Story 29. Printers that will not print because one cartridge is empty even though the other cartridges are fine. Story 30. Student loans. What started as an assistance program to help democratize higher education so it was not just for the super wealthy has turned into a limitless source of profits for lenders and colleges, including state and public universities. Schools are now immune to market price pressure. No matter how high they raise tuition, prospective students can always obtain enough loan money to meet it. On the lender side, they have no incentive to screen either borrowers or schools because the loans are almost impossible to discharge. You can default, but you still owe for life. Student loans are among the few debts you cannot discharge in bankruptcy. So lenders are happy to give six-figure checks to wide-eyed 18-year-olds who have little real-world or job experience and have been sold a dream by college recruiters. The only people who bear any risk in the whole system are the students, who are told from kindergarten onward by parents, teachers, television, every motivational speaker, and recruiters that you must go to college or you are a complete waste. Whatever it takes, you must get that degree. Story 31. In the toothpaste commercial, the actors used too much toothpaste on their toothbrushes, which was unnecessary. Story 32. The United States tax system says we know how much money you owe, but it is up to you to figure it out, and if it is not right, we will penalize you for not understanding the convoluted code. Story 33. Gerrymandering. In most representative democracies, voters choose their elected officials. In the United States, elected officials choose their voters. Exhibit A, Maryland. Story 34. Many products require you to create and register an account just to use them. This has become widespread. Even cameras now force account registration, which is very frustrating. I do not want to be tied to a cloud service. I just want to use the device. Phones are bad about this as well. I should not need an Apple or Google account to use a phone. It should work as a standalone device with just cellular service. These requirements exist so companies can collect data on you. Story 35. The saying that the customer is always right is misleading. Customers are often unreasonable and may try to obtain goods or services for free. Story 36. Minimum wages remain the same while the price of virtually everything else rises. Story 37. Do not require credit card details for a free trial or hide automatic renewal in the fine print. Stop charging my card when the trial ends. If I like the service, I will pay for it. Story 38. Health insurance in the United States costs a small fortune, rarely covers everything, and you can still end up bankrupt if you are not wealthy and become sick or injured. Story 39. Cartridge razors are expensive. Manufacturers started selling blades in cartridges to force purchases at a considerable markup. Multiple blades are worse for your skin and unnecessary. The plastic in cartridges is unnecessary and creates more waste. A single blade safety razor will save you money, give a better shave, be gentler on your skin, and help the environment. The only downside is a slight learning curve. Use a shaving brush and quality soap to eliminate aerosol cans. For head, legs, and other areas, there are razors such as Leaf that offer the benefits of single-blade systems while providing a cartridge-like shave. Shout out to the Wicked Edge community. Story 40. From an American perspective, insurance, especially medical and dental insurance. Your bill is $8,000. Your copay is $1,200. Actually, I don't have insurance. Oh, then your total is $450. Story 41. Most modern manufactured goods are designed not to last, so you keep buying more. Story 42. I may get criticism for this, but the sneaker and shoe industry is ridiculous. You do not need masses of fancy, artistic-looking running shoes stored in boxes that you spend $1,000 to $10,000 on at swap meets. You might as well be collecting very expensive Funko Pops. You are not going to wear them, and if you do, you will only worry about keeping them pristine. The markup is insane. I know people who spend money they cannot afford on shoes that will just sit on a shelf. It is bad enough that budget brands sell poorly assembled shoes for over $125 a pair, but spending thousands on what is essentially stamp collecting is nonsensical, bordering on obsessive-compulsive behavior. And do not get me started on women's shoes from fashion houses. I saw someone spend $1,800 on Louboutins. What are you wearing those foot-destroying shoes for, and why would leather, glue, and plastic cost $1,800? It seems like a racket. Story 43. Apple's removal of the headphone jack was supposedly to make the phone thinner, but most people use a case. The Samsung Galaxy S10 was 7.8 millimeters thick and still had a headphone jack. The iPhone 7, without a jack, was 7.1 millimeters thick. Apple removed the jack, waited for the backlash to fade, then released AirPods. It looked like a deliberate move to make Bluetooth a near necessity right before launching Apple Bluetooth earbuds, and consumers accepted it. Story 44. Any food sold at Disneyland or Disney World is delicious, but you pay through the nose and do not get much value for your money. Story 45. One issue that is not mentioned much and does not generate much sympathy because it scams businesses rather than individuals is the Better Business Bureau. The Better Business Bureau can collect reports on businesses that are not members. Merely not being accredited is treated negatively. Businesses must pay for the privilege of being accredited. I worked at a large company on the executive response team handling complaints to the Federal Communications Commission and the Better Business Bureau, among other duties. Generally, you summarize the response and the actions taken. It is essentially sharing account notes. Complaints usually do nothing. In most cases, a Better Business Bureau complaint results only in an official posted response repeating the same answer. However, if you do not respond or refuse to pay for accreditation, you can be penalized because Better Business Bureau accreditation is treated as meaningful. It resembles a white-collar protection racket. There are very rare cases where legitimate complaints were resolved, but most of those could have been handled by asking for a supervisor. After filtering those, only a minuscule number remained that required intervention. Even those could often have been resolved by other means and do not justify charging businesses for accreditation. In several years of handling these complaints, I cannot recall a single case where accreditation provided a clear benefit. The only slight benefit is identifying obvious scams, but those are usually apparent without the Better Business Bureau. For example, a company selling burned copies of software is an obvious scam. For that minimal service, the Better Business Bureau charges businesses for accreditation, effectively protection, because a good Better Business Bureau rating is perceived as positive while lack of accreditation is viewed negatively. Consumers are also taught to believe that filing a complaint hurts a business rating, but it generally does not. Only failing to respond to a complaint or not paying for accreditation affects the rating. If someone tried to start a business using the same model, they could face legal charges. It is comparable to a mob protection racket. Pay for protection from negative accreditation, and we will not publicly declare that you did not pay. It is puzzling that the organization is highly regarded. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.